All right, here we go. I think we are ready to get going. Let me just shuffle a couple windows around so I have the chat. That's looking pretty cool, Dexter. Is that are those MIDI plugs? Some kind of audio thing going on there? And hello to Le Samurai as well. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Folks, I should say. Quick introduction for anybody that might be new. Hello, everyone. My name is Tim. Go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. And in the stream, we're going to be working on some CircuitPython stuff. So if you don't know anything about CircuitPython, if you're watching this video in the future and you've never heard of that before, CircuitPython is a version of Python that can run on these tiny computers called microcontrollers. I have one here. This is a PyPortal device. So the main chip on the back here is a tiny little computer. And this one happens to have a screen on the front. It's a touch screen. It can draw colors and do all sorts of neat stuff. It also has a couple sensors built into it. And this one also has Wi-Fi, which is nice. It can connect to a Wi-Fi network, pull data from the internet, and display it on the screen. And so CircuitPython is a way to write programs for these little computers. And it's super easy because the device just shows up as a thumb drive on your computer. So I have the CircuitPy drive. On there is going to be a file called code.py. And inside that file is where you can just write your Python code, and as soon as you save it, that microcontroller will go ahead and run the latest version of the code. So you don't need any kind of complex software or drivers or anything like that. You can just use a text editor to write your code. So super quick and easy. Great for folks that are new to programming. If you don't have any experience before, this is a great way to learn. If you want to help support the project, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can always contribute to the project. It is an open source project. So on circuitpython.org, there is a link up here that says contributing. If you go there, this is a great place to start. If you're brand new and you haven't ever done anything like this before, you can take a look through the open pull requests and the open issues, and you can try to find issues and pull requests that are marked as like good first issue. Those tend to be the most basic ones. But you can also look through the rest of the open issues. You can find stuff that interests you or stuff that is for hardware that you happen to have. And you can take a look at what the particular issue is and go inside and try to solve it. Or on the pull request side, you can test out the pull requests. So people will have made these pull requests. You can look over the code, comment on it, see if there's anything that you like or don't like or think there should be done differently. And if you have the hardware available for it, then you can go ahead and test it out as well and just leave feedback to say if it works or not. Nice. Monophonic MIDI voice is what Dexter is working on there. So that's one way you can contribute by helping work on the CircuitPython libraries or the CircuitPython core. All of it's open source, so you can contribute to all of it on GitHub. The other way you can do it is this company right here, Adafruit. This is their website, adafruit.com. These are the folks that are primarily responsible for the financial backing for CircuitPython. So they pay folks to work on the project full time, to foster the community and do all sorts of other great things, around the project. So if you want to support the project, but you're not comfortable contributing, you could always just purchase hardware from Adafruit, and that will help since they are, again, paying folks to work on this project full time. This stream is not like a paid promotion or anything, right? They're not paying me to promote their stuff here. I do work for them. I write guides. I do other contract work sometimes, working on libraries and doing different things, but this stream is not part of that. I'm not being paid for this stream. I just do this for fun. But I definitely do think that they are a great company, and I try to buy stuff from there whenever I can, because I have all sorts of neat gadgets to play with. Yeah, that would be cool. Soldering iron emoji. We have like yeah, we don't really have anything like that, do we? Is there a regular iron? No, there's iron from Factorio. Yeah, that would be cool. A soldering iron one. It's a good idea. I don't know if there's definitely a way to add custom ones because they have like Blinka and all those. I don't know if we're full on those or if we can just add as many as we want. Would be a good idea though. I guess they do add some new ones from time to time, like the Neo key is relatively new. The Neo, like octopus or whatever that is there. So they can definitely add some. Okay. So what are we working on today? To start out with, we are going to be actually diving into core code a little bit. If you've ever watched this stream before, you may know I don't tend to work in the core that much. I don't really formally know C all the way. So I tend to stay into the libraries, which are all written in Python instead of C. But the actual CircuitPython core itself is written in C. But I've been trying to dig into it a little bit, trying to understand it. I still definitely have a lot to learn, but I have actually managed to write a function in the CircuitPython core that is used, you use it from the Python code, but of course the part that's inside the core has to be written in C. So if you watched the previous stream that I did, which would have been 2 weeks ago, I was off last week, out for the day on Saturday. But on the last stream, if you did watch it, it was one of the things I worked on was this this gauge. So let me actually try to fix that, and then I can show you on the screen here. So one thing is I was messing around with it, and I did end up breaking it. So I do need to go back and fix that. But this is a good example of sneak peek of what we're going to be working on here in a minute. So this was the gauge I was working on. This is something that was created by a community member, Gary Z, on Discord. So thank you to Gary Z. This is a really neat new widget. And if you did catch it last time, one thing you'll notice is that it's looking a lot smoother now. We don't have nearly as much blinking going on. So Gary put some more work into this and made it more efficient so that it's not drawing as much of the gauge each time you change the value. So this is actually running a lot smoother than it did before in terms of, the colors getting filled in. They used to be blinking. You could kind of see when it painted all those pixels. And so I wrote this core function called boundary fill in order to try to make this thing more efficient, because the original version had this same algorithm, but it was implemented in Python code, which of course runs much slower than the C code in the core. And so I wrote this in C. It's a boundary fill, which is pretty much like the paint bucket fill inside of MS Paint or Photoshop or anything like that. You choose an XY coordinate, you choose a color to fill it with, you choose a background color that you want to get filled, and then it will kind of like start on the XY coordinate you give it, and it will branch out from there and fill every pixel that it finds that is the background color until it doesn't find any more. So, essentially you can put it inside an enclosed area, and then it will fill up that entire enclosed area. And in the case of this, gauge, the enclosed area is this like hollow semicircle that's in white here. So it's using the boundary fill to fill the green and red colors that are inside of this gauge. And specifically what I'm going to start out by working on today is I'm trying to make the background value be an optional argument. So I'll pull up the PR page here. And early thank you to Lay Samurai, who chimed up in the chat a few minutes ago. Lay Samurai reviewed this and caught an issue with a infinite loop. So that was really nice. I definitely appreciate that. And then also offered up some suggestions around the name of this argument and possibly the idea of even removing it altogether and just using whatever color we find at the XY coordinate, which is a little bit more like how Photoshop and Paint and stuff like that work. They don't have the concept of the background value really. You just drop the paint bucket at a certain location and it fills whatever color is at that location. So this is the PR where all of this stuff was talked about. If you're interested, you can check it out here. It's PR 5145. So I need to do a couple of things. I did fix the infinite loop. I don't think I have pushed it yet, so it's on my local copy, but not pushed into the actual repo that's on this PR. So that's taken care of. And again, thank you to Samurai for spotting that and offering the fix there. The other thing that we're going to do is change the name of these arguments, the value and the background value. That's what they're currently called, but those are somewhat vague. It's a little bit unclear unless you're looking at the documentation, like what those actually are. So I'm going to go with, I think, fill color value for the what is currently called value. So that will be the color that gets, drawn in. That'll be the color that you end up with. And then I think I'm going to go with replaced color value for what used to be the background value. And so that's the color that is getting replaced by the fill color value. So we're going to start by making the change of those argument names. And then the other thing that we'll be working on is trying to make this argument optional so that if you don't pass it, then it will use the behavior more like Photoshop, where it will just take whatever's at that XY coordinate and use that as the background color, or what will now be known as the replaced color value. I'm going to take a peek back in the CircuitPython room. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, I was going to see both Microdev and Mark Gambler were offering up some suggestions in there. I had asked a question about how to make a default value for this. So they were both offering up some suggestions there. I just wanted to check and see if there was anything new. Changing the names of these should be pretty straightforward. It does have to get done in a few places. So if you're not used to the core development, like I was not when I started this, there's a couple places where this stuff gets changed. So inside shared bindings is where the arguments kind of like first come in, and this is where you have kind of the first chance to decide what types they're going to be. And so we need to change it in here. We'll need to change it in both the H file and the C file inside of here. So the function I'm adding is inside Bitmap tools. So that's where I'm looking right now. So I'm just going to start swapping these things out. So in here, we want to call value, fill, color, value, and then background value I want to be replaced. Color value. And is that the only spot in here? No, we have this one. Value. This one's arg background value. So this is doing some basic checks to make sure that the arguments that were passed are valid. In this case, it's checking to make sure that the value or the fill color value and the replaced color value are within the range of possible values that are inside of the bitmap that you pass. Because that bitmap, if it has fewer colors than the numbers you passed for the fill color value or the replaced color value, then it would raise an exception. So this is catching that and also raising an exception, but giving it a more descriptive error text so you know what's going on. So this is creating uint32 value. So this is where we want fill color value, fill color value, fill color value. And here as well, whoops. Okay, and we got one that I missed here for background. And then we'll need them here as well. Okay, I think that might be all of them. One thing I've noticed, I'm just using PyCharm, which is not, it's certainly not the intended purpose of PyCharm to edit C code. So it does not do nearly as much in the way of syntax highlighting and help with, as much as it does with Python code. I could probably look into, I'm sure there's a, what is the name of the company that makes this? Is it JetBrains, I think? I'm sure there is one for C code as well. I just don't have it. Fill color. Okay, I think I got all of them. And we'll definitely find out when we go and build. So that was in C. We need to change it in the H file as well. So I forgot which one. Okay, I had fill color. C lion. Gotcha. Place color value. I should look into that if I'm going to keep working in the core, because I do find that there's a lot of like quality of life stuff that it does in Python that it does not do in C, since this one is PyCharm. I should look into that. Is it? I think there's like a... I know there's a way you can buy like all of them. I wonder if it would be worth it to me to do that and get the whole package of all of them. Or the other thing is, like, I only use C. The only C that I write is in CircuitPython, which is open source. I think I might be able to use the free one. So, like, all of these editors have a free one and a paid one. I have the paid version of PyCharm because I use it for work as well. Yeah, this looks really nice, honestly. I might have to jump on this sooner rather than later, honestly. Looks like there's a couple other tools for C and C++ as well. Where's the sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but I'm kind of interested. Where is the price? You want to buy it. So I know there's a free trial. There's also a free like community version. I don't know if the community version has all the same tools. Okay, there is an all products pack, which is $250 for a year. Well, for the first year. It goes down after that. I don't know, maybe mine can upgrade or something. Otherwise, it's $90 for the first year, and it goes down every few years. Okay. So this might be worth it to me, honestly. I'm not gonna like do it right here, right now on stream, but I might look into that and actually pull the trigger on it. I have a feeling that would help me understand the C code a little bit better because of like the hints and the syntax highlighting and all the different stuff that it's gonna do. Oh, there is no free community one of that one. Okay, yeah, I'm used to PyCharm. I know there is a free one for PyCharm, so maybe the C one they only have a trial, but then not a community version. So let's see here. I did get fill and I got replace. So I think we're done inside of shared bindings. So now we need to go to shared module, which is where the actual like logic inside the function that does, you know, whatever the function does. In this case, it implements that boundary fill algorithm. And so we're going to need to change it here and here. Let me check back to shared bindings. I have an inkling that I might have forgot a D on that replaced color value. I did, yeah. Okay. So then we're going to need to change it everywhere where it's used, which is going to be quite a few places. Value. So that's a little tough, actually. We can't very easily just search for it because it's also part of the other thing. So we'll just skim through it here. I'm going to do value first, and then I'll come back and do background value. So I think the next time this gets used is probably when it actually changes the color, which is right here. And that might be it. These are adding the next points, refreshing the list object so that it will have the latest values. Yeah. That might be it for the fill color value. So let's go grab replaced color value. Put that there. This one I can do a search on, actually. I could do a replace as well. I'm just going to go through and paste over them, though. So this is the start of the logic that's trying to implement if the user did not pass a replaced color value, then try to look it up from the XY point that they passed. So I've started writing this logic, but it doesn't work yet. So we'll be trying to fix that after I get done changing the names of these things. Let's see, is there any others? Yeah, here we go. Okay, so I don't think we need this casting anymore. That was part of one of the ways I was trying to set up the default argument. Okay, and we don't have any more results, so that might be everything. So let's try to build this. And I'm just building up for the PyPortal to run it on this device I have. While that's building, I'm actually going to switch my code over to not this gauge, to something different. So I'll save this. I think I have a gauge test. Oh, it looks like I actually have 2 gauge tests. Got an extra .py on one of them. Actually, instead of loading CodePy, I'm gonna go find boundary fill test. And I'm gonna save that as CodePy, that way it'll be the thing that runs. Okay. And so the output we get right now, if I bring the screen back here, test bitmap must be of type bitmap, so I was probably testing one of the things I did from the PR feedback. Yeah, right here in my test code, I have tested passing a thing that's not a bitmap. So originally, it gave you some other kind of error that didn't really tell you what the problem was exactly. But this was, I think, feedback maybe from Mark, suggested having it check explicitly, and if you don't get a bitmap, then let the user know what's happening. So this check is working now. It says this bitmap must be the type bitmap, and that's because I passed it, I think, a dictionary or something. Yeah, dictionary. So we want to go back to being bitmap. Okay. The other things that came out of that PR review was some edge detection. So like making sure that it doesn't go outside the bounds of the bitmap. Before, if you try to fill a region that was on the edge like this, it would like try to fill pixels that are out here outside the bitmap, and it caused an infinite loop. So that is now fixed, and I have my test code updated to make all of these regions on the 4 edges. That way it can test and be sure that that code is working properly. So the next thing that I want to do, this is working now. So it seems like our edits to the variable names are working fine. One other thing that we should do actually before we move on is change the doc strings, which are in shared bindings, I want to say. Yeah. So this is the fill color value, replaced color value. And we need to do the same thing down here. Okay. Save. I'm gonna also try to build the docs. Don't remember the exact code to do it though. Is there a make for docs? Build docs. Doesn't look like it. Let's go make HTML. Thank you. Wonder why make HTML. Oh, Sphinx build, I guess it's using some kind of variable there to have the actual command inside of it. Sphinx build. I'm just going to double check the output to make sure that it's updated to the new versions of the names of those variables. Uh-oh. MathJax version. I don't know what that means. So this would have gone inside of build HTML. Gin index? Let me bring this over here. Whoa. I've never seen this page. Is this available on Read the Docs? This would be super useful, honestly. Because I find the search to be a little slow sometimes, but this page, if you loaded it, you could just like, oops. If you loaded this page, you could just like Control F rather, what you're looking for. Huh. That's super useful. Is that out there? I'm gonna check. Index? Huh. I don't know. If anybody knows how to find that page, or if it's if anybody knows whether or not that page actually makes it to Read the Docs or not, I would definitely use this if it exists. That's not the page I was looking for though. We do want to find there should be like a just index.html, right? Here we go. Yeah, there we go. So Bitmap tools. And then boundary fill. Yeah, fill color value, replace color value. Same thing here and here. So that does look good. Okay, we don't really need that. Nice. Gin index, so you can just drop in gin index to the name there. Oh yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, because I find sometimes I use this search thing here and it goes a little slower than I would like, and sometimes finds stuff that I'm not actually looking for in the list. But if I can come to this page and just Control F, it should be quick because it's already loaded everything. It's not like making JavaScript requests or anything. Seven matches. Oh yeah, there's even a list of all the modules too. Yeah, this is awesome. Let me bookmark this. Thank you for finding that page. Okay. And let me shuffle the windows back around. Okay, here we go. So the next thing we're doing is trying to make that argument optional. And to make the argument optional, we need to provide a default value. And then we need to try to check for the default value in shared module. At least I think that's how it's supposed to work. So the one that I have tried most recently was the suggestion from Mark Gambler over in the CircuitPython dev channel. And it was using int max. So let's edit our code. Fill the white rectangle. Wrong one. This one is what we want. So we actually have two whites. I think it's this one here that's talking about. We could just double check if we commented out. Yeah, that it's actually a square, it looks like, but square is also a rectangle. So if we take out the background value, or what is now the replaced color value, and we run this, we end up with this error from line 74, which currently says background value is out of range of target. So I guess the problem is that it's checking right here. If it's within the range of the bitmap, and it's not because we set it to max int. So we actually need to say second guessing myself. How do you, is it double ampersands? So used to Python where it's just and. Yeah. Okay, so if the replaced color value is not int max and it's within the range of the bitmap. So if it is int max, then we'll just go on. We won't raise the error. So that might be all we need actually. So then on the shared module side, I have if the replace color value is int max, then we're doing this part, which is getting the color out of the point, the XY point that we passed, and setting the color we found into replaced color value, and then just going on with the rest of the logic. So let's build. I have two tabs going here. I've been building in one, and grepping and doing other stuff in the other one. Place color value is undeclared. Let's see. This is in shared bindings. Oh, you know what? I went back to my PyPortal and I said my argument renames were working, but the truth is I didn't actually build and load this CircuitPython, so that was we were not actually checking that. Hey there. Let's see, it'll take it a moment for it to pop up there. Yeah, Lunar. Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. Lunar was here. Indeed. So we must have not renamed this properly. This 340. Arg replaced color value. And actually we have the same problem on 333. I will say, like, I'm actually pretty impressed by the C compiler. In my experience with compiled languages, like, it would find the first problem and then that would be the only one it showed you. But it seems to be pretty good about finding all of the problems or multiples of them. And the way it's doing all this color stuff actually makes it very, very helpful, especially for someone who does not actually really understand C all the way. Let's see. Oh. What have I done? Is there arg? Sure, I just missed it. Yeah, here we go. Here's the other ones that I missed. I'm sure I just missed somewhere that I needed to replace. I think this part here for the Q string, I did change it there, but I had skipped the ones up here for, let's say, arg in them. The pirate variables, I will call them. All right, it looks like we're gonna get a successful build. I'm gonna go ahead and reboot my PyPortal into bootloader mode. And I've been using the terminal to copy the build over to try to make it easier. So I just CP that firmware onto Portal boot. Okay, I think that worked. So I was much closer than I had imagined. I thought I was going to have a little bit more to do here. But this seems to have done it because... Oh, let's make sure. On... the white rectangle here, I have not provided a replaced color value. So I was previously passing in 0 here. That was causing it to fill this, which was currently filled with the 0, which in this case is black, or possibly, yeah, it's the black. So let's do a little bit more testing as well. If we pass like... if we pass 4, then it should not fill anything, because 4 is not actually in the box. Okay, that's good. It did not fill anything, which is exactly what we want. Same thing if we pass 2 or 3, it should not fill anything. But if we pass 0, it should. And if we don't pass anything at all, then it should. So theoretically, we could get rid of the last argument on all of these. And it would still work the same because of the way that we just did that. Sweet. Okay. Hey, thanks, Mark, for the max int idea. That's what I ended up going with. I don't know if you saw there. And that seemed to work pretty well. So we set replace color value to int max, and then inside shared module, if it was int max, that's when we grab the color out of the XY point. So I really appreciate the help there. I suppose it's not impossible that the user could be passing max int, but I don't think it's very practical because this is representing the index inside the palette, and most palettes are not that big. I don't even know if we have memory for that big of a palette, truthfully. So while it is not like strictly impossible to be passed by the user, I don't think it's likely in a practical case. Oh, we should turn this off. Yeah, I put a print statement here. Is that actually printing? Let's go. It is. It's not printing new lines though. I probably should have put a new line here to make this better, but I'm actually going to turn it off now anyway. I'm just going to get rid of that because it is working properly and we don't really need to print anything. So we should make another build and put it on. Just make sure that we haven't broken anything by removing the print. I sure hope not. And then we can just run the pre-commit stuff, and that might be all we need, I think. I wonder, do we really need this variable? We could, are we using this further? Yeah, I guess it is, actually. Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll keep that variable. Okay, that finished. I'm gonna reboot the PyPortal again. Copy the firmware. Let's see, got plugged here, maybe in CircuitPython dev. Ah, Dan. Here's an example from HID device. Taking an int arg, checking to see whether it's a certain range. Could cast explicitly from signed to unsigned. So I did try casting. A lot of the problem here is my lack of knowledge of C and the kind of specific type of C that's going into the CircuitPython core. Dan, I will say also, huge thanks to Dan. I don't know that Dan is watching, but definitely big thanks to Dan. Provided me some stuff that I need to look into, like, the types of things that I need to learn in order to be more effective at writing this code, rather than like right now I'm just doing kind of a lot of guess and checking. Dan pointed me towards some good resources and some good concepts that I need to go over. So I definitely appreciate that as well. So it looks like this is, and this, I don't know, this might change the, this might mess up the preview temporarily. Oh, Are we, did it just do that because it got big? Yeah. Oh, has the chat been gone the whole time? Is the chat been on the screen at all? So this is an USB HID device. Validate int range. Int. Okay. Validate int range. So that's how we could maybe take a regular int instead of an unsigned int, and then check the range to tell if it's positive or not. And then ultimately set it into the unsigned int. If it's not positive, we would set it to whatever the value we got from the XY was. I think I kind of like the way that I've done it with max size. It looks like the chat is not showing, at least in my preview, on the stream. Is that, let me get back to live broadcast. Let's say, oh, now it's back. Does it change if I go off of live broadcast? Huh. No? Interesting. Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe possibly the chat was not showing before, or maybe it was and just the preview got messed up for a minute there. But it should be back now, I think. And is the size all right? Do we go bigger usually? Let me see. Yeah, no, that does not work really. Right about there. Okay. Let me tell Dan, thank you. There we go. Oh, it has been there all along. So maybe my preview is just weird. I don't know. It's possible. I'll turn my preview back off anyway, though. All right, let's... So we copied this over. It's running. It's working. So we can run pre-commit on this. And we got a formatting fail, but I think it's does the formatting also anyway. It just fails if it did change something, so we can just run again to check. And we are good now. Does not have any failures on the pre-commit. We made the docs earlier, and that succeeded. Although it did print an error. I'm a little curious about all of these things. It prints these every time that you build the stubs. It seems like it's looking for PY files when the stubs are actually PYI files. Maybe I'll look into that one of these days. Oh, speaking of the stubs, does anybody use the stubs with VS Code? We had a user that was asking about that in the help with room the other day, and I've never used VS Code. I would assume it should work the same as PyCharm though. Like if you just do pip install CircuitPython stubs, and then right now it's best if you also do -- pre to get the actual latest version. If anyone has used that with VS Code and it works, I would love to get feedback on that, or if it doesn't work, we can look into trying to fix it. MathJack's free. Problems, 1 warning. Only PyCharm. Let me look at the let me look back at the PR. So this last one did pass all the checks. Let's see if this printed the same thing. One thing I will say about working in the core instead of the libraries is the actions take way longer to run because it's building like every device. So it's definitely really good to try to run everything locally so that you know if it's going to succeed or not before you push it. And if it's not going to succeed, then try to fix it before you push it. So otherwise it will be running for like an hour or longer sometimes. Let's see, got another ping in this one. Oh, nice. Another example here from Dan. It was after this part, I think. Generating indices. Yeah, we might have a problem here, actually. Looks like the last time I pushed here, it succeeded all the way. It didn't print any of this warning or error stuff. So I suspect if I push right now, probably this is going to cause that action step to fail. Let's see what the internet says about this. Okay, so this is on the Sphinx repo. So this is probably at least related to what we're seeing. Can't say as though I truthfully understand a whole lot of this, but bus device, nice. This is like over a year ago. Is this my branch? So I guess the problem is like I want to go check the main branch, but if I push, then it's going to start the actions running in GitHub. I guess it's not the end of the world. I'd like to try to test the main branch, see if I get the same error. Let me just clone a new copy, I guess. Okay. Oh, I gotta do the submodule stuff. I still have not yet committed these to memory or made an alias for them yet, which I should do. Fall into this trap sometimes of like, once I know where to find a thing, sometimes I'm bad about like committing it to memory, and instead I will just always go back to where I know to find it. So anytime I need to run these, I end up coming back to this page. Submodule sync. Should really make an alias though, so that it's easier to remember. And then I wonder if I can make it into one command also. Okay, and this would have cloned main, so this one's on main, not mine. Yeah, I get this on main too. So it's not a problem with my thing, which is nice. Well, it's not a problem specifically with my thing. So it does seem like it generated the pages, but it definitely also shows problems. Makefile 93. Yeah, and it didn't print this one either. Okay. So the next question, I guess, is it specific to my environment? Did I install something or change the version of something that caused this to happen? Or is it going to happen in GitHub also? I guess since we know it's not like really specific to my branch for this paint, this boundary fill, and we did pass pre-commit, I think I'm going to go ahead and push, and then we'll see if it fails in GitHub as well. So I noticed that these show up in my changelog, even though it says contents are identical. And I don't know why that is, so I'm just going to uncheck them so that they don't push. I guess maybe the permissions, like the chmod, might have changed or whatever. Okay, so we change value to fill color, change background to replaced color. We made this no longer required. We set the default to int max. This is all looking good. Just want to make sure I didn't accidentally also change something else that we didn't catch in the testing. Suppose we don't really need this many empty lines here. This is gone because it got moved up. Now it's up here. That part looks all right. And just the names of the variables here, so that's fine as well. Let me run pre-commit one more time since I took out that new line, just to make sure that the formatter did not want it there. Okay. All right. So what did we do? We changed argument names and make replaced color value argument optional. So we are pushing to Foamy Bitmap tools paint fill. Originally I called the function paint fill, but I changed it to boundary fill because that's the name of the actual algorithm. Successful. All right, so now we pretty much just wait and see if it passes in actions. Oh, you know what? I forgot to make an issue about this bitmap thing I discovered. I asked about this last week before the call on Monday. And somebody, I think Dan maybe mentioned that I should make an issue for it. But then we had the call right then, so started doing that and forgot all about it. Maybe we'll do that while this is running the actions. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's do that. So basically, the weirdness with this is that in the docs it says so yeah, here's what I usually do when I want to find something in the docs. This like searching takes a few seconds. It's not that long, but it's definitely slower than using the that index page. So let me do that instead, actually. Although the thing is, I bookmarked it on Chrome, which is the browser I typically use. But I have Firefox up for the stream. Okay. So it says value count is an int, and value count, it says the number of possible pixel values. But the thing that's weird that I found is that that does not seem to be the actual case. So in this example, I passed 5 for the value count, but I was able to try to set a pixel to value 15, which of course is above 5. So it seems like value count is not actually the number of possible values, but maybe the number of bits that, when converted to decimal, is the number of possible values. I think. Or something like that. It's related somehow to the number of bits more than the actual just raw count, the regular decimal count, which is kind of what the docs imply. So let's verify this all on the device, though. It's been a little while since I actually did this. Actually, let's do it in CircuitPy. Yeah, let's do it in CircuitPy. So I'm going to save this one back as boundary fill test. Hey, Keith. Doing pretty well here. Good morning to yourself as well, or whatever time of day it is for you. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so now we can reload CircuitPy. I think I'm going to start with the Learn Guide for drawing a point inside of a bitmap, which is here. I was going to see if this page mentioned anything different, but it doesn't look like it. So this will make a bitmap the size of the screen. Oh. This should have a while true at the end of it. We should PR this to have a while true at the end of it. Because without while true, it technically executes, but then it just finishes and you can't see it on the screen. There we go. So my screen is a little dusty, but I don't know if we can wipe it off a little bit here and be able to tell a little bit better. So really, it's this little speck right here is 1 pixel that it drew, which is this one here. And then it also drew this rectangle here by using a for loop to fill in a range of pixels. And so in this code, we have value count set to 2, which means that the valid values should be 0 and 1 only. But I'm going to set it to 2. And this one does fail, actually. But if we make the palette 3 and we make the value count 3, we add one more of these. Okay. And so now 2 should be the largest index that it supports. But I can set it to 3. And in this case, we don't see any color there. I guess because 3 is not mapped to a color in the palette, but this should be the same error we saw before. This should be value requires too many bits, or whatever it said. Pixel value, requires too many bits. So if I go up to 4, then it fails again. But if we set this to 4 and this to 4, actually, we got the same failure this time on 4. If I do 3, it works. But 4 does fail. So it's really weird. It's like, depending on what number you pass, sometimes it allows you to put extras. Like it allows you to have a higher number than what your value count is. But some numbers it doesn't. Like we saw in 2 that it didn't. We saw in 3 that it did. And now we see on 4 that it doesn't. And then 5 is even crazier. So that works. So 5 should be out of bounds. But I save it works. And in this case, it did actually draw a pixel as well. I don't know what color it is. I can't tell if that's white or what, but I guess we could do this one down here maybe. No, it's orange. Which is, I don't even have an orange in the palette. I don't know where it's getting that color. And so this one, it lets you go a far ways. Like on 3, we saw it fail on just like 1 bigger. But this one, it lets you go all the way up to 15. Seems like it's orange every time. Oh, actually, I stopped doing the rectangle. I've been looking at the rectangle, so I don't know if it's actually orange every time. It's like my pixel is actually gone. Probably has been gone for a minute. So 14 works, 15 works, but then 16 we get back to too many bits. So that's the main issue, is either something in the core, there's a bug that's allowing you to set the values higher than this, or if that's not really a bug, then I would say that the documentation here should be updated to say like the number of bits of the value count. Yeah. So if it selects 4-bit, but it, no, I don't think that's quite right, is it? Because what 2 to the 4th is bigger than 4, isn't it? Okay, does this need, it looks like this doesn't import anything. So we could just do this. But it's not, I don't think it's exactly this either, though, because okay, me. Because wouldn't this mean that if you had set it to 2, then it would not error until you pass in something like 4 or greater? If I understand correctly, but when I did actually pass in 2, that one works. But if I set 2, then I get the error. So it doesn't let me go up to 4, even though that's how many different numbers I can make with 2 bits worth of data. So it's not, it's tied to the bits somehow, but it doesn't seem to be exactly like the value count is just the number of bits, and then, well, the value count argument is the number of bits, and then the available values to pass are the largest decimal that fits within that many bits. Okay. Okay. So you give it the value count you want, and then underneath the hood, it's selecting the smallest number of bits that value count you requested can fit into. And that ends up being the maximum. I see. So when we passed 2, it ended up selecting 4 bits. No. It ended up selecting 1 bit, so it only has 2 possible values. Yeah. So then when we had 3, then it ended up selecting 2 bits, which means the maximum actual value is 4. Okay, that makes sense. And that one worked, and it also works if I set it to 4. But it's ambiguous. Oh no, it didn't. Oh right, we saw 4 does not work, but 3 does, because it's 0 based. So we did a value count of 3. We have a palette of 3, which means index is 0, 1, 2. But it allows us to set it to 3, even though that's like outside the bounds of our palette. I see. Okay, I think I understand how it works. So then I would say, like, you know, either... I mean, it's probably like that for a reason internally, but I would... I would propose that we make some documentation about it, because to me it seems like this should raise the same error, because we told it that we have a value count of 3, and then we tried to set it to the 4th index of color. Or could we like artificially limit it back down when you try to set it? Like in the underneath the hood, it is then selecting. I should break my. Should break this out of PyCharm for now. So underneath the hood, it ended up selecting 2 bits, which means there's 4 possible values. But could we not add some check inside of the code that's behind this that verifies what you're setting it to is actually less than the decimal version of the value count, rather than like what is actually possible based on the bits? I don't know. I think it should either be documented in the docs, the behavior, or honestly, I think even better would be if this would raise an error. Like, I think this should raise the same error that it does, that this does. Because otherwise, people can, like, accidentally, like, you could write code that accidentally, I mean, this example here, it's just hard-coded, so it doesn't, I mean, I don't think anybody is likely to mess it up on this one. But if you had a more complex program that was deriving this through some other means, if it was doing math to try to figure out which index to use, you could accidentally go bigger than this, and you would never realize that your math is messed up. Doesn't know the real value count, it only knows the bits. I see. So it would either have to pass in the real value count. In order to raise the error, it would have to actually pass in the real value count also in addition to the bits. So that would require modifying it, so it can't really raise the error without that. I think then it should be mentioned in the docs, though, because this definitely confused the heck out of me. And I could see, like, especially if you were writing a program that was deriving this number through some other means than hard coding, like, you technically could have a logic error where, like, this behavior is undefined. Like, what color is it going to get set to here? It doesn't, and we don't even have a way to tell it the color, right? Because I can't do this because the palette's too big? Yeah. So, or the other option is, like, palette should behave the same way, I guess, right? Like, if this is working off of the number of bits, then this should use the same math. That way, well, I really don't like the idea of, like, you set it to 3 and then you're allowed to go over 3, honestly. I would think it'd be better to limit it, so I like the palette behavior better than I do the bitmap behavior. Either way, though, I think at a minimum, we should try to document it better here. I guess, I mean, it's tough because it's kind of a complex thing, and I could understand, like, especially in the learn guides and places like that for relatively new users, like, that might confuse them. Does the bitmap inside the core? No. I was gonna say, does the bitmap know anything about its palette? But it doesn't, because those get combined together by tile grid. Okay. All right. Well, I understand how it works now, so that's a good step. I still think it's issue worthy, though. I'm gonna make an issue for it, and then if we want to change the docs, we can, and if we decide not to, that's fine as well. But I would recommend putting a warning here that's, or changing the wording of this to indicate that, like, it's not a literal value count, it's a number of bits. I wonder if this part of my actions passed. Oh, it looks like it did, actually. Yeah. I wonder what's wrong with my local environment. Or maybe a different version of Sphinx or something? What does this install? Sphinx 354. What do I end up with? I don't know. Let's scroll through that. Pip show Sphinx. I have 412. Palette code only stores the amount of requested colors, so there's disparity between bitmap and palette. Yeah. Snowball stemmer. There are some funny names for libraries out there. So is my problem then that I'm on a newer version of Sphinx? Where does this actually get installed? Oh yeah. Yeah, pip show is really nice. That's one that I finally did commit to memory. I would always search online like pip find version, and then I would get that and copy paste it, but I used it enough that I actually remember it now. So this just says run Sphinx build. How does it, where does it actually get Sphinx installed from though? Hmm. So is there a requirements file? Okay. That must mean less than 4. Doesn't work that way unless it's in the requirements file. No, that's all right. I shouldn't have deleted it because now I can't ban him. Oh well. Three, 5, 4. Oh, it's like this, right? So I guess this will succeed the same way the actions does now. Do we use 354 on libraries, or do we have different version for libraries versus the core? Yeah, see you, Dexter. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah. So we use a newer version of Sphinx for the libraries than we do the core, seems like. Yep. I wonder if we could change the core. I wonder what would need to change in the core in order for it to be able to use the newest version like the libraries do. Because otherwise, if you try to work on both, then you can't really unless you use virtual environments. That's good though that it passed. still has other stuff to do, but theoretically all of that stuff should be fine as well. Okay, so let's make that issue before we forget again about the bitmap index, and then after that I'll move on to some other stuff. I think I'll actually, I think there's a few PRs I can merge that have been reviewed at this point, so I'll do those, and then I'll start working on the grid layout. I was working on some stuff in there last time I streamed as well. So we want to go here, issues. Whoa. What does that do? Never even heard of that parameter before. Color luma, pixel luma, compute tricolor. Value count. Let's go, actually, bitmap allows pixel luma. Is it like a thing that would get passed to the display when it gets initialized or something like that if it were used? Oh man. Okay. So I have the dirty build, I guess, because of my boundary fill, but this is the same on the real build. Forgot to charge my headphones, so they are not dead. I'm gonna use this thing even though it's less convenient because they're wired. I think I'm just gonna erase out the dirty, but this does work the same on the real builds here. I don't know if that's exactly right, but gives all the basis of the information that's needed. So, code. Actually, put the code back here. So we could include another one as well, the 3-1 maybe. what happens when you run the code above. Let's say unless maximum decimal value possible based on the number of bits needed to fit the value count that was passed in the initializer. I don't know, do they call constructors in Python, even though it's init and not, doesn't like initializer. Until the value, we don't really need also, the value exceeds the maximum decimal value possible based on the number of bits needed to fit the value count that was passed to the constructor. Yeah, I'm the same. Java is, I've got the most experience with Java by far. I haven't done too much with Kotlin yet. I know that's kind of like the new thing that they like to use though. Android is really the bulk of my background. Oh, I got you. That's for the 3-color, those e-inks that can do like on-off red or whatever. I have one of those that does black, white, red for the pixels. Or do I have the yellow one? I think there's a couple of different ones. I don't remember which one I have. It's actually over there by my TV, but it's on a, I have the Raspberry Pi one. It's on top of a Pi Zero right now. I've never used it with CircuitPython though, I don't think. Description. Describe the bug in more detail. Maximum value would be valid. Link the docs. Oh, you can't link on parameters. A bummer. And you can't link on the individual parameters either. Maybe I'll do a screenshot also. There's no way, is there no way to preview the whole thing here altogether? What do we want to say here? That is larger than the value count that was passed in the constructor. Is palette does not have this same behavior. It acts we don't really need the group and the tile grid stuff. Okay, looking into Bitmap inside the core, it appears that the actual value count does not get passed into shared module. Instead, only the bits per index passed. Would not be possible to raise, to check, and raise an exception unless were modified further. Document this behavior in the docs. Value count parameter. color values higher than value count when setting a pixel color. Okay, exception. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I don't see a way that I can preview the rest of these, so hopefully that's all looking good. And it looks like it put bug automatically. I think, is there a display IO? Yeah, do that. Okay. So this is still running. I don't know if it's gonna finish anytime soon. Doesn't look like it. Still has another 100 builds to make or something. So the next thing I want to work on is the grid layout. But I actually do need to take a quick break and run to the restroom real quick. So I'm gonna do that and then I'll be right back. All right. One more thing, actually. Okay. Now we're ready to go on, I think. So I got some stuff I want to do inside grid layout, but actually before I get all the way into that, I am going to merge some PRs if they were reviewed, which I think they were. Display text. I think I got this right, yeah. Okay, thank you to Samurai for reviewing this one. This is on display text. This was making the bitmap object that's inside of the bitmap label into a property so that other code can grab it and use it for stuff, which turned out to be necessary in the dial widget. It was using Bitmap Tools RotoZoom in order to rotate that bitmap that contains the label so that the label can then sit at a different angle, basically. So this has passed the actions and been reviewed, so we're going to merge this and make a release. Is this? Oh. Huh. Interesting. Looks like you tried this though, Samurai, and it wasn't a problem on the current versions, but this person never did write back yet. So we don't have one pull request anymore. So I would say, I mean, this was an API change, but not really a major API change. So I guess let's go 2.21. I don't know, this feels like it should start with capital, but it's also the literal name of a property, which is a lowercase b, so also I spelled label wrong. Access the bitmap. I'm going to say the underlying bitmap object that contains the label. 2.21, let's just double check the number. Found out the hard way, if you mess up the number, it causes trouble, so now I always triple check that. So we had 2.20.0 before, and now we have 2.21, which is definitely higher. Okay. And the other one is actually in the grid layout also, which is in display IO layout. Which I think this was viewed as well by a couple of folks. This was the one I worked on. Well, this is one of the things I worked on CircuitPython Day, so it was reviewed by a couple different community members. None of the folks that have contributed before, but I think two other community members is probably good for this, and we left it out there for 2 weeks, so gave a chance for other people to come along as well. Nobody raised any other issues, so let me just make sure I did resolve all of the things that were raised. It's been a little while. Yeah, this one, look it up from the list. That resolved this one. This is the same thing pretty much. This was just like the suggested code to use instead. Okay. So let's merge this one also. And release it to .10.2. This one we could bump the middle number also because it did also make an API change. It added the new way to look up items that are inside the grid layout. So we can go 1.11.0. What's the name of the function? Like get cell, I think. Yeah. So function to grid layout, which allows you to look up cell contents by their XY cell location within the grid. Previously, it was only possible to get them by their index, which was tied to the order that were added to the grid. Did I think I added an example? Yeah. I'll link the example as well. Okay. And I'm going to double check the versions. So 1.10.2 is the old one. 1.11.0 is definitely higher than that. Oh. Okay. All right. There we go. I'm going to grab my gloves real quick. Hopefully inside this, I think. Okay. So now that we got those merged, the next thing I'm working on is actually this can be closed. Well, maybe not yet. Maybe we should make a new PR for this actually. Oh, I also wanted to fix that display IO thing. This one. Yeah. So before I get into grid layout, and I'm not sure how, I'm probably only going to go for like another 45 minutes, so I don't know if I'll make it into the grid layout stuff I wanted to do, but I do want to fix these two things actually, which is this example, which is in the learn guide code. This should have a while true at the end. If anyone were to try and use this code, it doesn't, I mean, it works technically, it doesn't crash, but it doesn't seem like it works because there's no while true, therefore you never get a chance to actually see this stuff on the screen. So we should definitely have a while true here. So let's make that as a PR. Fetch data fruit, we'll pull main. Data fruit main. Make a new branch, check out -b, display IO pixel fix from data fruit main, no track. And this is where? This is in CircuitPython display IO. I wonder if there's others missing it. This one's not. This one's not. Okay. Seems like maybe this might be the only one. Oh. This one too, actually. And probably this one too. Okay, so there are a couple actually. This one too. Yeah. And probably this one. And probably this one. It's an image. It's really... It's a rectangle, I guess. It counts as an image. Sheet, that one should be fine. What's the difference? Oh, font. It's using a custom font, I see. Oh, grids. Yeah, this will need it too. Okay. Okay, let's make sure I, it's gonna want a new line here. Should have copied that with a new line. That's right, this will give me a chance to double check all of these at the same time. Okay, does this have pre-commit? I don't think so. Has pilot. I don't remember the right way to do it. I thought it was RC file. Oh. Right. This is fixed now, I think. Pip install pilot. Upgrade. This was an issue we noticed yesterday, but I think the people that run the pilot project fixed it. You pass an RC file. Oh, it is RC file, okay. Maybe the tab wasn't working because of the broken version? Yeah, whoops. Okay, this is CircuitPython. Doesn't want to help me here. Can I run it on everything? Like, maybe yes. Didn't change that part of the code. Maybe the actions has, less strict rules. It's a different version of Pilot also. Let's check. Doesn't have any flags that change the rules. But I mean, it wasn't failing before, so I suspect maybe the other version .271 that's installed here must be not having these same errors, or like, not errors, but like Pilot issues. No, it still does, actually. Let's take a look at them. bus. No value for argument I2C bus. Missing mandatory keyword argument device address. Huh. I'm not familiar with parallel bus displays at all, truthfully. Is there actually a page for this in the doc? I mean, in the learn guide? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So, I mean, it wouldn't take an I2C bus, because I think the whole point is that it's a different protocol. It's not I2C. It's these 8 pins. Let's look at the docs. Yeah, this doesn't even have I2C bus. Or device address. I don't know why it thinks beta 0, command, chip select, write, read, reset. Same on 630. I don't know why it thinks that... I don't know why it thinks those are needed. They're definitely not. My only guess is that maybe it's looking inside of the Blinka one? Yeah, it is looking inside of the Blinka one. Which... for some reason does have an I2C bus. Seems strange to me, but I don't actually really know that much about parallel bus, so maybe it makes more sense than I'm thinking. But I think it's not really an issue, because this is not meant for Blinka. This is core code, and the core code, we just looked at the docs, it doesn't have those two things. Pylint is finding it on my system because I happen to also have Blinka Display IO installed. I guess probably if I uninstalled it and then ran Pylint again, it probably would not trip the same way. But we will find out when we push it into the actions. We get new lines at the end of everything. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Don't want to go to Adafruit. Oh, it looks like my core PR finally finished also, and it did pass everything, which is cool. Yeah, hey, thanks for stopping in, the real time. Appreciate it. Have fun with the yard work. I got some of that to do myself as well. All right. So this is past. I think some of these are resolved now. I should go one thing at a time though, shouldn't I? Let's get back to this one. These examples are used here. Many of them were missing main loops. So if you attempted to run them, they would technically work, but you would not be able to see the result on the screen, since the program would end immediately afterward. This adds main loops to the ones that were missing it, so that you can actually see the result on the screen. Maybe I should call it a display, I guess, right? Because it's display IO and everything. Doesn't matter too much, truthfully, though. Interesting, it doesn't show the new line at the end here. Oh, I guess because there already was a new line at the end, so it's treating that as unchanged. That's why. Okay, all those look good. I think Anne's been the one that's reviewing the Learn Guide PRs now. Okay. The next thing we could do is inside display layout. This is an issue about updating dial for use with the new vector IO. But the actual end goal here is that all of these widgets that are currently in widgets here are moving. They're not going to be a part of this library anymore. This library is going to be only for layouts like grid layout and any others that we want to add. But the widgets are not going to live here anymore. Instead, those now will live in their own repository, one repository for each one, and they are inside of the CircuitPython org. And this past week, I actually created one for the dial. So there is a repo for it already. It has a release. It's been added to CircuitPython org bundle. So I think we're ready to just go ahead and remove it from display IO layout. And then we'll say once that's removed from display IO layout, then that resolves this issue. Because I did do the update at the same time as I made a new repo for it. I just went ahead and also did the update to make it support the new Vector IO API. So let's make a PR that removes this from display IO layout. And then we will point to where it went in the PR. And I'll do the other one. Right now there's one other one. I think it's an annotation that's added into the CircuitPython bundle. I'll do that one at the same time. And then on the rest of them, like once we get them added into the bundle and they have their new repo set up and everything, then we'll come back and remove them from here. That way, like, they stay here and people can use them until we get the new ones stood up. A bunch of the other ones I think have repos, but they're not added to the bundle yet. I still need to do that. Anybody really can do that. It doesn't have to be me. And if there's folks that want to get involved in that CircuitPython org on all the graphics libraries, you can let me know. I don't know if I have the rights to add you, but definitely Scott can add you. We have like a like graphics team under that org of all the folks that work on and maintain those graphics libraries. So let's do this. We need to probably fetch. We might as well pull. I don't think, it doesn't maybe matter too much if we pull, I guess, because we're gonna make a new branch, but probably should anyway, just for fun. So we do want to make a new branch, git, yeah, I've been running for a little bit, Johnny. No worries though. Thanks for tuning in. How's it going? Hope you're having a good day. Git checkout -b. This is gonna be remove dial and annotation. It's from Adafruit main. No track. We got some good work done today, Johnny. I got the first real thing I've done inside the core. We got some new functionality built for it. I was able to make one of the arguments be optional. You don't have to pass it if you don't want to, and it will not just break. It will do something useful if you don't pass it. So that's cool. I was really excited to actually do something for real inside the core. I think I had a couple other core PRs, like the stubs and some other tooling things, but like I don't really count those. But this was the first one that actually involved like writing C code inside the core. So I was pretty stoked to get it working and actually make those changes to it today. All right, so we got our new branch, and we can remove annotation, remove dial. I guess we will have to decide eventually where this ends up. It's not something we have to decide right now, but this is not really a widget per se. But I'm also not sure that it belongs inside the display layout. It's not a layout either. This is a class that contains different types of easing. So like if you want to animate something, this has different like animations that will either like speed up or slow down the animation at the beginning or the end, so that it's not just like a static speed animation. It's kind of a tough thing to describe. If you search online for like animation easing, I'm sure there are probably examples of it. This is web animation. So this is like a plot of what's going on here over time. So this one is, looks like this one is slowing down towards the end of the animation, whereas this one, since it curves farther upwards, it's speeding up towards the end of the animation. Be nice if they would have some actual animations on the page, but yeah, I don't really see any. Oh. There we go. This one does if you hover. So like that little ball on the side, all of them are animating it by moving it upwards, but actual speed that it goes during different times of the animation is changing. So like some of them start really fast and then slow down, some of them start slow and then go fast. Oh yeah, 3D printers do that as well. Yeah, for when the how the head is moving. Eventually, we'll need to figure out where to put that though, because some of the other widgets make use of it. I think Icon Animated probably is the one. Maybe Switch Around also. Yeah. Guess we could make it its own repo. Guess we could make it its own repo. I don't know. I don't know where the best spot for that, but that's not what we're working on right now. Let's not. Let's try to stay on one track here. I have trouble sometimes. I always am like, see a thing and then go down that road. I gotta get better at focusing. What is this blue for? Did we change this? Oh, yeah, that's a valid change. Oh, I don't know why it thinks I just now made that change. I think that change has been done already, probably, right? Or is it not? Let's look at the live code. Oh, it is. Okay. Yeah. I see. I guess I just must have noticed that. I know I think in Cookie Cutter now we have changed that, so I'm calling that concept ignore list, but I guess we must not have had it in this library yet, and honestly I don't have any recollection of it, but I must have seen it at some point and changed it and then never pushed it anywhere. Okay, so we deleted annotation, and we deleted dial. So we want to delete the examples as well, and we can also delete all of the docs that are related to it. And again, all this stuff is already uploaded in the new repos, so that the examples and the docs all exist in the new repos already. So annotation will delete, dial will delete, and now for the docs, dial and all of these. Annotation. And is anything in here? Yeah, it looks like it. So let's go. No more dial. And no more annotation. Okay. And let's check here as well. Okay. This one I don't think has references, yeah. Maybe let's check README too. Okay. Okay. Alright, so let's run pre-commit. So this is because I have some files that are not checked in. It's trying to run reuse on those files. They don't have copyrights in them. But since they're not checked in, that's actually fine because they're not used. They're not actually in the repo. It's strange to me that pre-commit, like if you run it before you add anything to the repo, it's like it won't find anything. But once you have stuff in the repo, it seems like it does find things that aren't added. It's kind of weird, but that's what this failure is for. It's actually fine. Honestly, I could delete it out of here. gauge. That's the circular gauge that we were working on a little bit before. Well, not really. We didn't work on it, but I showed it using that new boundary fill. That's gonna make that's gonna end up in a new repo as well over in CircuitPython org. But it does use boundary fill, so we need to wait until that PR in the core is merged in. I mean, we don't have to wait, I guess, but like, it would be kind of weird right now, because if anyone found it, then they would not really be able to use it with a stock build of CircuitPython. They would need to make my special build that comes from that PR branch, so that's not the greatest. Okay, so this passed this time. Yeah, it's interesting, like, oh, these maybe have copyrights? Yeah, I guess these do have copyrights, even though they're not checked in. Okay, so that passed. Let's do the docs. Docs. CP docs. I still have not made that change. I think like Samurai or somebody pointed out how I can make a change to my CP docs alias to make it work from the root. I haven't done that yet. I need to do that still, though. Let's see. But this one passed. Seems good. Let's go look at the docs and let's just make sure there's no more annotation or dial stuff in them. So we definitely don't want that to be in there anymore. Okay. Okay. Seems good so far. The other thing is icon widget. Icon widget is used in the touch deck learn guide. So before we remove that one, we need to make sure that the project bundler thing that populates this button right here, we need to make sure this is able to pull libraries out of the CircuitPython org. And I don't really know how this works. If anyone has insight into how this bundle button on Learn works, I would be curious, because we might, if it's using Circup or the same idea as Circup, then it will already just work, because we did recently add the CircuitPython org into Circup. But if it's its own thing that's different than Circup, then we'll want to make sure that whatever is behind that is actually able to find icon widget over in the new repo in the CircuitPython org before we remove it. Otherwise, folks, it would break that guide for folks, which would not be good. But the docs looked okay for now. We passed pre-commit, so I think we're good here. So our changes are the pilot. Looks like a couple things changed in the pilot. I think what I did is I copied this out of a new cookie cutter run. I think what happened is I noticed it was different when I ran cookie cutter to make the repo for the dial. So I just went ahead and copied the new pilot that came out of cookie cutter. Is this one I just cookie cuttered like last week? It is different here though, actually. These parts. Disable. pointless string statement. Yeah, so that's there. So I guess let me put the copyright back. I don't know why. I don't know why I would have changed that. I mean, I assume I copied it from somewhere, but oh, I see. I see. No, it was the other way. Yeah, this is what we want because this matches dial. And dial I just generated with cookie cutter like last week. Yeah. Okay. The rest of that's fine. And then the changes here, we're removing dial and its diagram and also removing annotation. That one didn't have a diagram. Then the changes here, we're removing the dial example and removing the annotation example. And then everything else is deletes. Deleting the code, deleting the images from the docs, deleting the code, deleting the examples. Yeah. Dial. Okay. These now have their own repos over in the CircuitPython org. Do this. Added to the CircuitPython org bundle. Though currently get removed as soon as they are set up in the new repos in CircuitPython org and added to that bundle. RC file to the latest version. Cookie cutter generates This PR is now available in these respective repos. Okay. Librarians. All right. Make sure this runs, yeah. Sometimes the actions don't start running automatically. It's like, it's supposed to be checking if, I think if you're a member or if you've contributed to that repo before, but I've noticed sometimes, even on repos that I have contributed to before, it doesn't do it, which is weird because then it just puts the button down there. I have the rights to go and click the button, so strange, but this time it did run it, so should be good to go. So I think the last thing I'm going to do is just make a new comment on this PR and resolve a couple of these things, and just make a comment that it's ready for a final or at least another review, I guess. Okay. Nice. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. This one we got. That is a good question. Let's take a look. You know, it's probably, I probably added it for something to do with printing. So it's probably not actually needed. That is in module knitc. This is traceback. Yeah. I'm guessing it's not. I'm guessing it's not actually needed. This is it, right? Yeah. Let's make a build and test it though. Nice. Let me look at the other thing you got. Let's see. Yeah, that part, I think you're right. I think it could track. I think it could track the minimum and maximum areas. I kind of, I would say I kind of cheated on this a little bit and just did the entire bitmap because I wasn't sure how to correctly create and store and update those values. I should probably give it a try though, because I think it would be more efficient. I assume it would be more efficient. I assume that marking that section dirty causes it to get redrawn, which takes time. And so the smaller the area we mark dirty, theoretically, I assume the less time it takes to draw. So it probably would be more efficient. Yeah, that's a good point. I had thought about that when I wrote it, but it definitely escaped my mind. Just mindlessly scrolling through this though, I see here actually there is an example of this. This is in what is this one? This is in RotoZoom. So maybe I can yeah. Okay. I think I can probably reference this. This is basically the same logic. This is inside RotoZoom and not my function, but this looks like the same exact logic that I would need to implement, which is make minimum and maximum X and Ys. And then for each of my points, as I check them, if they got filled, then I would check it against the minimum and maximum values and update them if they need to be updated. And then at the very end, use the current values for what min and max are set to, and then make that the dirty area instead of the entire bitmap like I have done currently. Yeah, because here it's 0, 0, and then width and height. So it's basically, this was just a hack to get it to work. Refresh the whole bitmap. I mean, I did it on purpose, but only because I didn't know how to do it the other way. But I think that code in RotoZoom, I think I can reference that. That's basically the same thing I need to do. Yep. Sorry, I'm catching up on the chat now. Yeah. Okay, I will probably do that. I think that's a good idea, because I mean, I don't think it will probably matter except for in extreme cases, but I think the efficiency boost is worth it, especially for like if something's trying to call this super fast in order to update, like we were in that gauge function. This might make it more efficient. Let's make sure the string one built. So it did build. Let's run it. Thank you again, by the way, for taking a look and for catching those two things. I totally forgot the way I was doing that dirty. That was always kind of in my, when I first did it, it was in my mind as like a, let me just try to get this to work and then come back and deal with it later, and promptly forgot to come back and deal with it later. Okay, we should be in boot mode, so we can copy. And now we will need to switch back to test code. I'll save this in case we need it for later. Bitmap index issue test. I don't know, probably won't need it, but because I made that issue, it'd be good to have it in case if anybody asks anything related on that issue, I can come back to that and test it without having to rewrite it. Let's do this. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I'm, the review process is like, I really like it. Honestly, I would be probably too intimidated to try to contribute stuff if there was not like folks looking it over. I definitely don't, and especially like triply so with the core, I definitely do not trust myself to be knowing really what all is going on inside there. So I am very appreciative of folks looking over anything I do, but especially anything in the core. Okay, so this did run. So I do think that string, I could look back through the commits if I wanted to find the exact place I added it, but my guess is that I probably added it for something to do with a print statement at some point. I would guess maybe I like was trying to append stuff into strings or something. I don't know. It may not have even been necessary, honestly, but because I don't really know what I'm doing inside the core, I might have thought it was necessary. Yeah, totally agree, Keith. Totally agree. I think I'm gonna probably wrap up the stream for now, though, here. So let me just make a note back on the PR that I'm gonna do that second one. Good catch. Thank you. I've removed this in the latest version, but will wait to make a new commit until I address the below feedback as well. let's go. Yep. I think this is correct. Should be more efficient to track and /max values as it works, and then only make dirty area that actually did get changed. I'll work on that. And then make a new commit once it's complete. Thanks again. Okay. My terrible spelling here. Yeah, Scott's definitely he's definitely like Wild West of quick on the merge and without testing and stuff. I'm a little more test oriented. I would say at this point I swing like almost the opposite end. I do more testing than I do looking over the code, which I'm getting better. And I mean, especially the core, like I don't understand the code some of the time. So like, you know, me looking over it, you know, I can only spot so much because I don't fully understand it. So it makes sense that him having a better understanding of it, looking over it, can get more out of it. But I'm definitely on the opposite end. Like anything I review, like the probably 99% of things I review, I have run them. I'm like, and a lot of times it'll even be like I test it instead of explicitly looking over. If it's a core thing, especially, like chances are that I tested it and then left a review, but maybe didn't look it over nearly as much. So, but I think it's good though. I mean, like, it's good to have people doing it both ways. And I do think, like, just like he says, because everything is always, you know, in the version control, like the worst case scenario is like something gets merged, it's broken, someone notices it, and it gets fixed, you know, after it gets noticed, which it's not the best to have it broken for a while, but it's also not the end of the world to have it broken for a while. So, and especially like if it's broken in the main branch, and you know, a release doesn't get made with it broken, then like the people who are especially new CircuitPython are probably unlikely to ever see it since they're encouraged to use the stable release. So it's all set up with lots of good guardrails in the system. So, all right. So I will do that. I'll probably come back to it later today or maybe tomorrow. I don't know exactly when I'll have some time, but I'll try to get that in, and then I'll make a new commit as well on this with the dirty area. But that's going to do it, I think, for today. I will be back next weekend. I should be back next weekend at the same time. So Saturday, 10 a.m. Folks are interested, you can catch me. I stream pretty much every week. I was off last week. But you know, every normal week when I don't have something else going on, I'll be streaming. So 10 a.m. I should say 10 a.m. Central Time on Saturday. So if you're in a different time zone, you'll have to convert. But 10 a.m. Central is my time, and that's what time I'll be streaming on Saturdays. So thank you all the folks that joined. Thank you especially to Mark and Lay Samurai for all the reviews of everything that you looked at. I definitely really appreciate that. And also everyone else in the chat that helped me out with different things along the way, and just everyone who tuned in. So thanks, and I will catch you next time.